Secretary Benson, what are some of the proposed restrictions that you are most concerned about?
Well, I think the citizens overwhelmingly voted to amend our state constitution in 2018 to give themselves the right to vote absentee. And some of the most troubling restrictions in this very large package of bills are ones that would make it nearly impossible for them to do so, making it so that they can't use a drop box to return their ballot, or eliminating the ability for my office or a clerk to proactively give them an application to simply request a ballot. So a number of very small but collectively very significant ways to make it nearly impossible for someone to vote by mail or absentee, despite the fact that so many voters on both sides of the aisle chose to do so in 2020.
I mean, unlike Georgia, Michigan has, of course, a Democratic governor with veto power, but the state GOP is planning a petition initiative that could override that veto. How possible is it that these bills can become law?
Well, there's a number of steps. I think the thing to remember is that this is a battle over the future of our democracy that's playing out in state legislatures around the country. And so there's going to be moves that, quote unquote, the other side makes, the democracy deniers, including ballot initiatives and the like. But there's also protections that we have, particularly in our state constitution in Michigan. Again, remember, voters amended it in 2018 to instill a number of rights, including the right to vote absentee. So arguably any law passed or proposed or otherwise that would infringe on that right could violate that constitutional provision. And of course, that would require court litigation. But I'm prepared to seek and use every tool at my disposal to protect citizens' fundamental right to vote and the constitutional rights they've given themselves to express that vote through the absentee ballot process.
We've talked a lot about what all of this means for Democratic voters, or the way in which this is aimed at Democratic voters, but I found this really interesting, and I want to read it to you. This article in Washington Monthly arguing that these Jim Crow tactics are also about appealing to the Republican base. It reads, Republicans increasingly need to pass draconian voter suppression laws, not only to quell a growing body of opposition votes, but to keep their own base engaged. It is stated only in euphemisms and hushed tones, but there is genuine terror in the Republican establishment that conservative voters will simply tune out if these measures are not passed. I wonder what you make of that.
Well, first, it's a sad state of affairs that, we're seeing one political party, a major political party in this country, try to block access to democracy, as opposed to simply just engaging in a dialogue over ideas and winning the vote through that. So that aside, I think what this also underscores is that the lies, the misinformation that we saw emerge throughout the post-election moment last year that, of course, escalated in the violence in the Capitol on January 6th has now manifested itself in the outgrowth of these policies all across the states, all across the country. So this is essentially a continuation of the big lie that's now an effort to respond to those who've been lied to, who are demanding some sort of change with these draconian rollbacks on voting rights. And it's just a terrible thing for our democracy, for the history of our country to be experiencing. But it really is a continuation of what we've experienced these past 6 months and a reflection of the fact that there's been no accountability for the lies that were told after the November 2020 election, and including the insurrection in the Capitol January 6th.
To what extent are you looking to Washington and the movement around H.R. 1 and thinking that that is necessary in order to not end up over and over again in these state fights over voting access?
Yeah, this is a critical moment for the federal government to step in, as they have throughout history, in the passage of the Voting Rights Act and the passage of the Help America Vote Act, to protect the rights of every citizen, regardless of where they live or who they vote for. And so very truly, the future of our democracy depends on the leadership coming out of Washington right now to support protections, the reinstitution of the Voting Rights Act, the expansion and protections of the vote through the For the People Act. And we've shown in Michigan and other states that all the policies and protections in the For the People Act are possible to easily and efficiently implement with the sufficient funding that's in this legislation. So this is doable. It's practical, and it is a way to protect the rights of every voter in this country. And that's why I hope fervently that the leadership in Washington on both sides of the aisle recognizes this is the time to put politics aside, do what's right for our democracy, and pass these federal protections.
Madam Secretary of State, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.